Guancho. Welcome, GPPers, to episode 42.
Thanks for joining us today. We've got a few funny little topics to go over. That being world news, the comedy scene, a special Tomas section, death videos on the internet, and an update on some of the books we've been reading. Thank you, Gloria Tells, for that one.
Yeah, welcome, guys. We've got some random topics. Probably not going to have like a super long episode, but, you know, stick to consistency, honing in our podcast skills, and having fun doing this as well.
Yes, sir. Mastering the craft. We were supposed to record, we had originally planned for an 8:30 start on Sunday, which was yesterday. And we're trying to do every Sunday as a record day, keep that consistency like you were saying. It was not going to be possible.
Well, when we made those plans, that was before my little incident.
Yes.
I'll just move on to my section as like a start.
Yeah, please.
It's called Nature Isn't Nice. And before I talk about my experience and whatever, I want to open this section up with a quick short story. So this short story is called To Build a Fire. It was written, I think, in 1908. So sit back wherever you are, in your car, in the couch, in the bed, and just listen. In the unforgiving Yukon wilderness, a lone traveler set out on a perilous journey through the biting cold of the Klondike Gold Rush. He was inexperienced and overconfident. His only companion, a loyal dog. The temperature was well below freezing, and every breath he took seemed to freeze in the air. As the man trudged through the snow-covered landscape, he was warned by an old-timer about the dangers of the trail and the importance of not traveling alone in such extreme conditions. But he brushed off these warnings, convinced of his own strength and resourcefulness. His journey took a disastrous turn when he accidentally fell through the ice into a freezing creek. Desperately, he tried to build a fire to dry his clothes and warm his numbed body. His first attempt was to strike a match, but his trembling hands couldn't manage it. He fumbled with the matches until they were useless, leaving him with cold, wet fingers. The man's second attempt involved gathering twigs and dry grass to start a fire, but the wood he found was too wet, and his numbed fingers couldn't grasp it properly. He thought of killing his companion to stifle body heat, but he had no strength to grip his knife nor strangle the dog. As night fell and the temperatures plummeted, the man's realization of his impending doom began to sink in. He desperately tried to fight off hypothermia, but his strength waned and his movements slowed. The dog, a creature attuned to the harsh realities of the wilderness, survived the night and continued its journey with a new group of travelers, while the man's journey came to a frozen, solemn end in the heart of the unforgiving Yukon wilderness. To Build a Fire is a chilling tale of the relentless power of nature and the fragility of human life when pitted against its formidable forces, punctuated by the man's futile attempts to build a fire and save himself. And today's section is called Nature Isn't Nice.
I love that. That was an awesome intro and a bone-chilling story.
I forgot when I listened to this story, but it was just random. It was just like, man's problem with nature, or maybe it was just called To Build a Fire, but it was a very short, like, video and interesting to listen to. I think I listened to it before bed, so it's kind of like that type of story where you just kind of doze off. But if you like short stories, this is a good one because it's got plenty of themes built into it, such as just like individuality, like overconfidence, nature versus man, and like you see like the dog survived, but the man couldn't outlive the cold. He didn't listen to the old man. He thought he was better than nature, but nature just isn't nice. I gotta be honest. I asked ChatGPT to write this little summary for me so I can read it off to you guys. But I think from the video, you know, it was like a very long journey for him. Like he traveled through. He thought he was fine. Then nightfall began to come, and he did like a fire to cook lunch. And then he went off again and then fell in the creek. And then he was like, shit, I need a fire to dry it off. And then like when he was trying to get twigs or whatever, snow fell down and covered his fire. or like wind came and blew out his fire.
Yeah.
Like it was just a bunch of things of nature like screwing him over. And I feel like I saw a thing online where it's like people should return to nature, like society has to be like nature, but like nature's not better than society. Like we should be thankful to have, you know, cozy rooms, fucking cars, heating, because without it, then you have to be in the pitch black darkness, super cold. Like you can't go, if it's like nighttime during the winter, you cannot leave your fire.
No, and we see that with like homeless people in Chicago and stuff. Like it gets really bad for someone if they have no protection from those elements. And I think the question, or like the drive to make our way back to nature is like just so, it's like almost immature, because like our whole existence as humans has been to create technology to distance ourselves from the cruel base that is nature.
Yeah.
But now it's like, okay, let's go back to that. But
you know, I think there's merit in the want to go back to nature, because our brains haven't been able to, you know, adapt hasn't been able to adapt, you know, quickly enough as like how fast it's been developing. So, you know, maybe like the nature wired mind wants to hear the leaves rustle, like experience no noise, whereas like the newly adapted mind needs to evolve with technology. But it's just so hard because it's happened so quickly that you are kind of like stuck in a ditch. I don't fucking know.
And if you were not born with, if you like have lived your life with a combination of both, it just seems so much harder. Like if you're a kid growing up now, born 2010 and on, maybe sooner, all you know is technology. So maybe studies will come out and show that
there have been already. I remember in school, well, I don't know about specific studies, but there have been people that have looked at case studies where like children grow up, you know, in a suburb, and maybe there's like a certain park nearby or whatever, but they're mostly just used to their house and the streets and the parks rather than going to the nearby wilderness to like do hooligan shit.
Yeah.
Because I didn't live during those times, you know, like 90s, 80s, whatever. So like what not boomers, what do you call the people born in the millennials?
Gen X. Millennials are like 90s. Millennials like
I guess you can kind of count millennials too, whereas like you had flip phones maybe, but still you just like you went out. I had a very slight glimpse of this, but you just meet outside in the street and then just see what you kind of wanted to do. Yeah. Like I had a window to the street side, so I would just open it. My buddy would be outside, and then we'd like, where am I going? Your place? You come to my place? Like that type of communication where, you know, you're not just glued to the LED screen
for
of your phone.
For sure.
The reason I brought up this fucking section is because I've had an unfortunate contact with poison ivy. I was doing some, let's say, landscaping work, and I knew it was poison ivy. My job was tasked to remove it, and I wanted to get paid, so I tend to removing it.
Of course.
Right away when I saw it, I was like, this looks kind of like poison ivy. Like, an easy way to remember is leaves of 3, leave it be. So when you see the vine growing and each part of his leaf, you can see like 3 distinct things. It's probably poison ivy. Just leave it be. But I'm trying to get paid, so
of course
I cut it off. I have gloves on. Boom, boom, boom. Take it all off. I didn't have long sleeves on though, so it rubbed all over my wrists. And you can wash off the oils, but I guess I didn't. When I looked more into it, you gotta like take a hot shower and like rub everything thoroughly. I kind of just did it in the sink, hoping like it'd be good enough.
Yeah.
And then a couple days later, the rash showed up I didn't know specifically that it was poison ivy at the time, so I scratched it, touched other parts of my arm. Then when it got even worse, I would scratch it, and then I'm drowsy, so then I rub my eyes. I don't know. The camera won't be able to see it, but...
No, but you guys will see in the thumbnail. I mean, that is not doctored at all. There's no Photoshop put in it. Like, he legitimately looks like Martinez said it best. He's been on a week without sleep, and then he just did a line of... But,
No, but nature is not nice. Like, poison ivy is not the only poisonous thing out there. You got poison oak and poison sumac. And for oak, you can also remember leaves of 3, leave it be. Kind of looks like oak leaves, but if you see it in like a cluster of 3, then don't touch it, because all 3 of these have the same oil as like poison ivy does. Urushiol, is I think what it's called. And it just causes an allergic reaction when it comes in contact with your skin. And with poison ivy, I can't confirm for both oak and sumac, but poison ivy, it's on its leaf, on its stem, on its root, on its stalk. Like every part of it has it. So even if like you're digging out of the ground, you got to be careful. If the leaves are dead, you still have to be careful.
Jeez.
And there is a natural remedy for it. It's called jewel weed. I forgot how to identify it, but you can Google it and find out. And, you know, if you come in contact with it, you find jewel weed, and it has, like, let's say the opposite chemical for it. So you rub that all over the area, and it kind of neutralizes the poison ivy stuff.
Interesting. Nature isn't nice.
No. And remembering this, or like going through this, it made me remember another thing. When I was in Lithuania, there's this plant called the common nettle, or it's called the stinging nettle. And, it grows in like wet areas, kind of by like rivers, or like in abandoned areas where, like, you know, humans just don't touch it.
Right.
And what it has is these like tiny spikes all over its leaves and stem, I believe. And it doesn't have like the same thing as poison ivy does, but when you rub up against it, all the things like stick onto you, and it releases a chemical that makes it feel like it stings. And I remember maybe first, like the 3rd day or the 4th day I was in Lithuania, we had like free time. People went to a coffee shop, went to the hotel, did other stuff. I remember looking in the distance, and I saw like a castle or whatever, and I was like, I want to go there. Kind of looks cool. Nice. So I just take this random bus, and I'm talking to this old, I don't know what to call, Lithuanian, Latvian, Russian, like 60, 70-year-old dude on the bus. Like creepily like tells me to sit next to him because he had an open seat. I was like, sure.
This Russian guy, first off, when he asked you to sit down, did he offer you any vodka?
No. he just stuck out his hand. He's like, because he didn't know what language I spoke, so he was just like he like pointed at me and then like pointed at the seat.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, fine. Because I didn't know how long I was going to be on the bus, and he just started giving me his life story where he was traveling from Italy during the time just by bus. So I think he's been on the buses for like a week or 2 at that time, and he was going probably all the way to Belarus or Russia. And I was like, why are you traveling? He's like, I don't have a lot of money. I can't. He was speaking, let's say like 40% Lithuanian, 30% Latvian, and then like the rest like Russian, whatever mixed in. So I only like shake my head, or I mean nod my head, like wow, okay. But then like he started going off against I think priests.
Oh no.
Because if I had to guess, I think he got molested.
Oh.
And he hated them. I think he fought like in some type of war, and he was just like, whenever he wanted to talk shit about the priests, like he would go like 2 inches from my ear and like started like I'd fucking kill them all. I'd kill them all.
He was making sure he wasn't saying it out loud.
Yeah, because like, you know, there were other people on the bus. He's like, I can't say this out loud, but when you get off this bus, freaking punch every priest in its face. And like, I was like, holy shit. You know, 15 minutes on the bus talking to this dude, I'm like, I think I passed my stop. So I'm like, all right, I gotta get off. He's like, and then because like I was worried that I wasn't responding correctly or whatever. But then he was like, he shook my hand. He's like, you have a good like time, whatever. I'm like, thank you. And then I got off. So the handshake was like, okay, I got his respect at least or something.
He's not gonna come find you in the middle of the night.
But that awful aside, I was looking for this castle. It was like 2 miles away from when I got off. So I found this random river. I get off the road. I walk towards the river, and the entire, like, imagine like a 30-degree slope all the way towards, or maybe like 45, all the way towards the river. I was walking through 30, 40 feet of distance. It was all common nettle, and it was pretty hot, so I was wearing shorts at the time. And like, I'm walking through all of this. I don't feel too much right away, but then like a few minutes later, my entire leg is just like stinging. And I'm like, what the hell did I walk through? Like, I'm trying to look at my legs, and I'm like, I don't really see much spikes.
Right,
like,
there's nothing on me.
It's just the chemical, like, making it feel like you got spiked.
Oh, that's awful.
And the thing is, I didn't know which plant it was, so I was kind of like paranoid about everything I was walking through. I'm like, shit. I'm walking back up the bank, and it just stings again. And I didn't learn about this until after I left Lithuania. I stopped at Copenhagen on my layover and went to the botanical gardens. And they had a showcase for a plant that's even worse. It comes from Australia, and it's called the suicide plant, or in their native language, or some native language down there, gimpy. And that same stinging sensation, it's probably like, I think, 10 or 50 times worse, and it can last for weeks or a month. Like, this one only lasted me like maybe like 30 minutes, the common nettle. Yeah. But that one, like, imagine like
times 50.
It literally says it's agonizing.
Oh, I can imagine. I can't imagine, actually. I can't.
Yeah, the showcase at the gardens was like, be careful. Don't touch. Yeah, but
I don't know about you, but I'd be.
I was literally thinking about it. I'm like, And then on the sign it said, every European child is used to the sting of the common nettle. I was like, that's what I fucking walked through. Like, all this time after I left Lithuania, I finally learned about it.
But I've seen way too many British YouTubers doing like funny videos where they jump in like a pile of nettles and just scream, and it's so funny. That was my exposure to nettles. That's the only reason I knew about it. But I just thinking about it, I didn't have anything written down, but I recently also had a little I have two that I could talk about, little nature isn't nice moments. The first one happened when I was in Hawaii. Yeah. If we think the forests are scary, let's times that by 50, and then you got the ocean.
Oh God.
Because you are just so vulnerable when you're in the ocean and lakes, any body of water. Like, we might have originally been like made to be in that, but now we're not.
No.
We could hold our breath, the average person, for like a minute and a half. And we have soft feet, we have soft skin, we have opportunities for things like sea urchins, which is what happened to my sister, to get embedded underneath a fingernail or a toenail. Oh. Just so much pain underneath the toenail.
Ouch.
And it just like just constant pain for like 3 hours, I think, for her. It looked so painful. But then one that actually happened to me that you were there for was the leech. The leech incident. Lake water, more water. Water's scary, dangerous, but I love it. Got bit by a leech. He was sucking on me. I ripped him off and didn't clean out the wound good enough, and it got infected. And it was around for like a week and a half, and you got to get put on strong antibiotics for that. And nature is not nice, Thomas. Nature is not nice.
No, like leeches. What I think about right away is, are they called piranhas?
Piranhas, the biting fish in the Amazon that go in like hordes.
Oh my God.
You drop a piece of meat in there and it's gone in seconds.
Oh my gosh.
Razor blade.
Teeth.
If you're oh, I'm sitting on a dock in the Amazon. Let me put my feet in the water. And you pull them up and it's just bones. It's like cartoon bones.
Didn't, what's his, the
Jeremy Wade.
Didn't he do something with piranhas?
Mm-hmm. One of his greatest catches, because his whole show was based around trying to catch these mythical story-based fish, and one of them he actually got was called the wolffish, which is a cousin of the piranha, and it's got like teeth the size of like our thumbs.
Wait, I want to guess. Is this the one where the story of like? No, has to be different. But I remember this one fish. Like I watched the episode, and it was the one that like, bit or connected to some dude's like, penis.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, never mind.
This was that would be too big.
Okay, never mind. Holy shit. Wait, that's like a piranha cousin?
That's a cousin of a piranha, yeah.
Oh my lord.
Similar connection, I believe, to like a northern pike and a muskie.
Mm-hmm.
Piranha and wolffish. But yeah, I mean, oh man. Crazy.
What do you think is worse than actually, no, one is obviously worse. I was going to say getting stuck in the middle of the ocean versus a forest, but you know, in the forest you can at least stand. In the ocean,
yeah, it depends. Like,
are you on a boat?
If you're on a boat,
how much food do you have?
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's say in the forest you've got weeks worth of water and food, but like no cell phone, no cell service, whatever, and or you're on a boat in the ocean, but you have 30 days worth of food and water. Like, what do you think would be worse?
The ocean, dude.
Yeah, I don't.
The ocean.
It's such a hard comparing those two situations, because if you're stuck in the middle of a random ocean, then you could be way the fuck like far away from anywhere.
Yeah.
In the forest, you have like a chance of like.
The way you set it up, I think, was perfect, because it pretty much like it made you think like that's about equivalent chance of survival, which is like very low.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the intensity of like natural disaster, maybe not disasters, but like natural effects, weather effects, is just going to be so much worse on the ocean. You've got no chance to get any block from the sun. You're going to get hammered by rain. Waves. You got no waves on land. You don't have to worry about your foot capsizing.
Yeah.
You know, there's mudslides and stuff in the forest, but
that's like.
But then you have bears and like predators on land.
Like it depends where you land, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like most predators, most animals, I feel like leave you alone unless you're directly like going to them or serve as a threat to them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, if you approach a bear in the woods, like GG. You can't out climb a tree. You can't outrun it.
No. Let me add on. You know what direction you have to go, and you're 50 miles from the shore and 50 miles from like a White Castle or like a town.
Yeah.
A White Castle. I know that's the first
Which one
thing.
I'm taking?
Yeah, which one do you think you would survive? You have a better
50
chance.
50 miles?
50 miles walking or 50 miles by boat? But, you know, everything that goes into boating.
I think walking better, because the one thing that I thought of immediately with the boat is being what is it called, like slightly moved by the stream.
Right.
So you don't know if you're kind of like going straight towards the right point. You could be going, 20 miles off your destination.
Yeah.
And then maybe you're screwed even more.
And what if you don't have an engine on your boat? What if it's just paddles?
Oh, you get so tired.
You get so tired. If there was like a green dot that was fixed on the spot that you needed to go, almost like a waypoint in a video game,
yeah,
I still think it would be if you had the waypoint, if you had to use a compass in the forest and you had a waypoint in the ocean, I'd still take the forest.
Yeah.
Dude, the ocean's crazy, man.
No, nature isn't nice.
No, it's not.
And I think we'll close that section right up there. Leave a comment if you kind of found this section interesting. I'd like to bring up some type of nature. Nature isn't nice, whatever, nature factoid, bird, soy session. Just leave a comment if you want to kind of hear this weekly shindig.
Yes, sir.
Speaking of shindig, what about Shane Gillis?
Shane Gillis.
Shane Gillis.
I've watched half of Shane Gillis's new comedy special on Netflix, and I watch a lot of his podcasts and a lot of the stuff that he's on, so I'm kind of familiar with his jokes, and I think they're hilarious. But like, he is going to be one of the greatest comedians of all time. He's going to be on the Mount Rushmore with Louis C.K., maybe Dave Chappelle. What
about Bill Burr? Or nah? Or is Bill Burr?
The thing is, there's a few like guys from past years, like Sam Kinison and a few other like old time comedians that I haven't really watched, but yeah. I just know how renowned they are in the community. So you almost like it's hard to put a Mount Rushmore together for us.
What about like just more recent comedians?
Recent?
Because like for me, you know,
Joe
Rogan's funny, but when I watched his special, it was like all right, like wasn't the craziest thing. Bill Burr is pretty funny, like a lot of the time. He's famous. Dave Chappelle, obvious one.
Have you listened to much Louis C.K.?
I listened to it before. Was he the one that did the little the jerk thing? I listened to him before that, and then you know he got whatever semi-canceled, then he made it back.
Yeah.
But I did listen to Louis C.K. He was pretty funny.
He's a little bit different. Like, he's almost everybody in the scene thinks like he's the GOAT. But he doesn't have a huge Hollywood following, so not a lot of like normal people know him.
Oh, okay.
If like, I don't know, like Kevin Hart.
Oh yeah, there's Kevin Hart.
Like if there's so many different variables you have to consider when you're saying like a Mount Rushmore of comedy people, but I think if you're including everything, Shane Gillis will eventually be on there. And his comedy special was hilarious. I'm halfway through. I recommend you guys watch it. It's on Netflix. It's called Beautiful Dogs.
I wanted to check out a little bit of it, but I don't got Netflix, so I couldn't do the research for it. But why do you think he's gonna be like on the Mount Rushmore though? Like, is it more because of this special, or just like recently you've been listening to him and he's always been so funny, or he's been putting up numbers? Like, what makes you think?
I think it's been his consistency. Like every special he's put out has been like equally as amazing.
Yeah.
And everything he does, he's hilarious. And he's in a point right now where he's like so beloved by the fans also. He had a few years ago, he was hired by Saturday Night Live after doing pretty well doing like sketches on YouTube.
Yeah.
And before he could even do a sketch, he got fired by them. He got for something he said. And that pretty much slingshotted him into like superstardom where he is today.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just consistently funny. His takes are amazing. And he's almost like, it's weird to say, but he's almost like in the same category as like the pro male creators that we have coming up right now.
Maybe. Like, what do you mean? Like Meninism?
Tate, almost.
Oh, so
it's not as radical, but I'd say actually that's not right.
Not the right take.
He's closer. He's just like a pro America.
Oh, America. So not pro men, but pro America.
Pro America, but he's almost like coming from a conservative angle because he's, will sometimes make jokes at women's expense, but he's also like a fat white guy and he makes jokes at his own, and like he was in the military.
Yeah.
He's just like such a you don't expect him to be nuanced, but he's pretty nuanced, and he just gives great takes on almost everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I think similar to like how Louis C.K. is like that, I think he'll be able to almost take that throne from him whenever he's done.
Whenever I look at a comedy short, or I guess like when I'll be checking out maybe his special later, I just think about our time at the comedy show.
Yes.
And kind of close to Wrigleyville, Chicago.
Mm-hmm. Called the Lincoln Lodge in Wicker Park.
Yes. Wicker Park, yeah. I don't know why I said Wrigleyville, but
it's close. It's kind of. It's like north of Chicago.
But now that when I look at shorts, I imagine, they're just like giving this comedy like special. I put quotes on that. I don't know what to call it. Comedy show, stand up, whatever. Performance to this group of people, and they're just shooting their shot to be funny. And then when you jump from that to, let's say, Louis C.K. or like people just doing stadiums, that's just a very bizarre jump for me to see.
Yes. Yeah, because the connection with the fans was like so big at the show that we were at.
Yeah.
And like that's what also makes those funny reels is other comedians going to small shows like that and interacting with the crowd and doing crowd work and picking on somebody because they're whatever or making fun of somebody because they're this or that. But yeah, stadiums like that, there's a disconnect there.
But when you're doing a stadium, it's like everyone's there to see that comedian. They're not there to see the row of comedians coming up, get a good laugh. Like they want to see their favorite person on stage give like a funny performance. Because it's like, I don't know how you do audience, like, what is it called?
Crowd work.
Like,
I don't know if you do in a stadium.
You definitely don't.
I feel like once you get to a stadium level, that might be why like Rogan and those guys are better, is because it's just like a monologue.
But there's still like a intermediate level where, because I've seen like
theaters, I think that's like the term for like a few thousand people in the crowd.
Yeah. You still do crowd work, but it's just like a larger crowd. Because the one I just think about is I think his name's Russell Peters, and he did one about like Russian people. I think it's like super famous on YouTube.
Yeah,
like his probably most famous bit. And that looked like a theater, and he still did like crowd work and like implemented that. But then I know this probably doesn't happen, but when I think about in the old days, they did like circus acts or magic shows, is you would have a plant in the audience. So like, like, oh, if you don't trust what I'm doing on stage, you call on quote unquote random person, but you call the plant to come up and he's already part of the performance. So you make it look like, it's part like, oh, you picked a random person for the show and everyone loves it. I don't think they're doing that for comedy shows, but
I feel like if there was somebody doing that with like how much I consume of the media, I feel like, you would have heard something about it. But that's a good little idea. When we do our first live Pillbox podcast, we're going to have to do a little plant in the crowd.
Have you ever seen like live podcasts?
No, actually. I've heard about them a lot.
Maybe one that you might have heard or whatever is Logan Paul doing it with Shaq.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Because they were at like a conference and they had Shaq come on, and then they had a live audience like watching the show as it was happening.
That's awesome.
It was kind of awkward. to say the least. It was awkward, and I'm like, oh shit. But one other one that I fucking loved was H3. He did a live show in California. I'm not gonna remember the theater, but he did it at a theater, and it was like sold out, so like completely full like theater, and he had like different segments of the show. He brought on some famous people and obviously people that were part of the show to do like all these different bits and whatnot. And it was such a great show to do live. It differentiated from like, cause he usually does like social war commentary or whatever. Like, let me give examples. Like he did a debate with XQC. He called out this one like TikToker, did a interview with him, like covers news. I find it entertaining for some videos. I don't watch each one, but the live one was just for the fans, essentially. And it looked like it took so much effort to make it that good.
I bet. That's like a tour level of like performance.
Yeah.
Like that's that's Taylor Swift doing a 3-hour choreographed show. Like, they probably practice that a whole bunch.
I'll show you some bits later, but GPB Live would be pretty funny, but I feel like we have a lot of work.
Of course.
to
One
get to
step
that
at
point.
a time, though. One pill at a time. Danny Duncan, if you're familiar with him,
Yeah.
he does like a tour. And I was always like, what does he do on tour? But it's pretty much the same thing. He gets in a theater and he just brings on all of his regular personalities from his vlogs and just does like crazy stuff. Plays music and jumps into the crowd. Pretty sweet. Pretty sweet. Okay, what do you want to move to next?
Well, I guess before we move on, please subscribe to Grandma's Pillbox. Our previous video, episode 41, currently at 21 views.
Ooh.
Bring up that view count.
Bring it up.
Go like it. Like this video first, then go like that one.
Yes, sir.
We want to up our sub count. Please leave a comment. Anything. Just what you like, what you don't like. If you want the nature section, if you want Liam to like sit in this seat or something.
Let's move to some world news, possibly.
Okay. I'll let you cover this first segment that you put down.
Yeah, so millions of South Koreans just got a year younger.
What?
Yeah, South Korea just adopted a new law December of last year where the old age counting method made people appear 1 or 2 years older than what their international age was. I'm 24 now, Thomas.
You're 24 now?
I'm 24 now in South Korea.
Now or before this?
Before.
Okay.
January of this year, I was 22. But now they've changed it back. The new law that they've passed mandates that using the international age counting method, starting at 0 years old at birth and adding 1 year with each birthday, what we're familiar with as Americans. The new law was welcomed by many South Koreans, eliminating the need for the traditional age counting. The government expects a reduction in legal disputes, complaints, and social confusion. What do you think they mean by social confusion?
Honestly,
Related to age calculations. There's one thing that comes to my mind.
Now that I thought about it, that is a strange dilemma to have, I guess, when you don't know how to count the age.
Let me say this: the old method, or the method that they adopted in 22, made it so that, it counted everyone as 1 year old at birth and then added another year on January 1st.
Yeah.
So if you were born December 30th, you'd be 1, and then January 1st, you'd be 2.
Yeah.
And you'd be only 2 days old, but you'd be 2 years old.
Yeah. I remember hearing about that, which was kind of strange to me because that was like a traditional age counting method, but like, how did it make sense to them?
Silly.
How does that make sense? Like this, like imagine, you'd follow that same thing, but someone was born January 2nd, and then whatever, they were 2 years old, and then you compare it to your example, the 2-day old. Like, how do you?
Yeah.
Oh, these people are the same age.
Right. Oh man. Glad they got that fixed.
I wonder, was that really? Because I didn't look too much into it, but was that age dilemma thing that you were hinting at a problem in South Korea? The social confusion?
I hope not.
I hope not as well.
Morally, I hope not, but I'd have to imagine legal disputes, complaints, social confusion. There's one thing that I think of when they talk about that. One quick thing, another massive world news event. Kate graduated. Congratulations, Kate. Good luck on the NCLEX.
Oh, shit.
Moving on.
Lots of hard work coming ahead.
True.
I'm so glad I don't have to go to school anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
It is nice. But, we're perpetual learners.
Perpetual learning.
But
every day's school day.
Every day.
If there was something today where I learned, because, how often do you think about the Roman Empire? Last night, I was tired, and I just turned on a random 20-minute video about the ancient Roman Empire, like, in history, which is pretty interesting, but, like I don't know where I was going with that.
How often do you think about the Roman Empire? That's been going so viral right now, and it is amazing.
I remember
because every guy is just in unison when he's asked by his girlfriend whether or not he knows about it or not. His answer is always like every day, a lot, every week, on a regular basis.
So this next portion of world news, we're not going to go into an in-depth discussion, but the only thing is that I haven't heard too much about it was in Canada back in June. There was a Sikh leader, like a religious leader that's India leader.
He's buffering, guys. He's buffering.
I don't know how to introduce this. There's Hinduism in India, and then there's kind of like a Sikh religion that happens to be in India. You've got the Muslims in Pakistan, Hindus in India, but then the Sikhs didn't really get their own the Sikh bras didn't get their own like state. So there's been like a separatist group ongoing, and they have a group in Canada. And most recently, a Sikh leader got assassinated in Canada, and like last week, Trudeau accused India of being the ones that called the assassination onto the dude. And did you just fucking fart? Oh my god. Brain fart. Brain fart and real fart.
Brain fart and real fart.
Some farting context though. In the 1980s, there was India had Operation Blue Star, where they stormed into a holy Sikh temple and just basically got all of the militants out of there. All the Sikhs were like, "What the fuck, man?" Like, they retaliated, and the Prime Minister of India at that time was assassinated by the bodyguards, which were Sikh. So then, I think a year later, there was a terrorist attack on Air India Flight 182, and it was linked to the Sikh separatists. And I don't have the number of deaths, about 380-ish people died. This was the most deadliest aviation attack before 9/11.
Jeez.
And so you have like the Sikh people in Canada, like, and the Hindu people in India kind of clashing with one another, kind of causing like weird issues between Canada and India, because Canada's like, these are our citizens, you can't be like meddling with us, but India's like, but they're fucking meddling with us, so we got to do something. And now that this has come up again, I think even in the 2000s there were like bombings in India that they linked to the Sikh people. So I'm like, I'm wondering where this is going to go, because I mentioned to you off camera that none of the nations that are like kind of allies to Canada are kind of backing him up. Like, I think there was a recent UN meeting, and Biden was like, we're all happy about India and its economic pathway that it's leading or whatever, rather than like talking about...
Yeah, congratulations for making it to the moon. We won't cover anything else on this topic.
And I'm curious if that's going to really escalate anything, you know, because we're friends with Canada, but not really supporting Canada. India, I read, we're using as like a geopolitical lever against China, because we don't like China, but India is also a booming economy, so we're trying to get leverage with that.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting, and I don't know.
Who knows?
Could be something.
World news has been something that I've been tuned into more since we've been doing it as a segment on the show. So
there's also ethnic cleansing going on in Armenia, but I don't think we have time for that.
But needless to say, that should not be overstated. That is awful.
Very awful.
Speaking of, that's an awful segue.
Speaking of ethnic cleansing.
Speaking of cleansing,
let's talk about
it. Is wild how available it is for you to watch videos of death on the internet, specifically war. Like Iraq soldiers, Ukrainian soldiers, they're literally vlogging while they're fighting in these wars. And this was a bit in Shane Gillis' special.
Oh, was it?
And I was just, oh my God, it makes so much. It's like, when you actually put it together, it's like, it's wild how crazy it is. The information age has allowed us to be able to tune in live to these like just heinous events. And I see you had some stuff written down here.
Wait, before we get to that, I see a bunch of like those vlog clips that you're talking about where it's like these Ukrainian soldiers, like one was like they're in the burrows and just like cooking like they're cooking oatmeal, and he's just talking about like this is the best meal you can have or whatever. Or this other guy was vlogging himself because he was like so happy to have a protein bar, but you can hear gunshots and like bombshells like dropping down like in the distance, and he's just like, this protein bar is like the best one I've ever had. Like,
so I'm so appreciated to eat this delicious energy bar, and I realized it.
It's crazy to me that when you're in war, you're vlogging like that, but it kind of really shows you, I think, the most important picture, which is these are normal people fighting for awful people.
Yeah.
Like,
yes.
Well, I shouldn't say fighting for awful people, but it's like Putin's not out there sending himself into the battlefield. He's sending out young or just young adults, whatever, to go do his bidding. Did you see that?
A little bit of
lint.
Dust.
When you brought up like war videos being super easy to access, I thought about this, the Yugoslavic wars. One of the most recent like awful wars, from 1991 to 2001. If some people don't know history, I don't know, the Balkan region maybe of Europe. So to the right of Italy and north of Greece, that's the previously Yugoslavic area. They used to be one united nation, but they're a bunch of different religions. So let's say you got Albanians, Serbians, Croatians, Montenegro's in there, Kosovo's in there. You got a bunch of different nations in there, but they were united as one. And just through this time period, everyone fucking hated each other, wanted to like just fight each other. And I think if you're looking through the Reddit, you can literally find just all the combat footage where they're just going to fucking war with each other, and you can look at all of this stuff. Like people shooting AKs at each other, driving tanks into towns. I don't think we'll. I mean, those videos are on YouTube. I don't think we'll show it on on our channel. Maybe I can drop the Reddit link in the description if you guys like. It has a thread of every fucking footage you can find on this war. But one of the reasons also that I wanted to bring this up is because I remember seeing a news article where there was a full day holdup where it was Serbian gunmen like fighting against police in Kosovo. Kosovo is, I think, mainly Albanian, ethnically speaking, but Serbia doesn't like that and wants control over Kosovo. And I think I'll read. Kosovo was involved in these wars. Now there seems to be tensions rising up again between Serbs and the Kosovo people. The tensions between them flared over the weekend when some 30 heavily armed Serbs barricaded themselves in an Orthodox monastery in northern Kosovo, setting off a day-long gun battle with police, leaving one officer dead, 3 attackers dead. The Sunday's clash was one of the worst since they declared independence from Serbia in 2008. And there's some countries like Russia that are on Serbia's side, and then there's some countries on Kosovo's side. So I think people are kind of afraid that that's going to upstart something.
An area of the world that's been just plagued by tension and war, you got to think that there's always going to be something possibly brewing. And that's tough to hear. I like, as you were mentioning all these different ethnicities.
Yeah.
I was just picturing all like the people that we know that are these ethnicities and how more than likely their parents or grandparents probably immigrated to the U.S. to escape this stuff.
Maybe not completely related, but one of my friends is Romanian, and his dad helped in like a rebellion movement that happened in Romania. I don't know the specific history, but like just like one generation back, and they're fighting like these type of wars.
The 90s, back when nature was ruling us, not phones.
One generation before.
One generation.
I'd like to end maybe this podcast with a lighter note.
Yeah.
You have some goofy ideas for videos. I've got some ideas for videos. Maybe we just have a little casual ending talking session.
Yeah.
About what we want to do with GPB maybe.
So I told you about the one video.
In relation to a merch drop. I don't think besides the Instagram story that's been made public.
Yeah. So we're thinking that it might be time, because Thomas and I, dude, we've done 42 episodes of this. We've probably talked in like half of them about how we shouldn't wait for perfection to do something. We should just start it.
Yeah.
And we've gotten better about building that mindset, and I think that's a mindset that we need to adapt for this merch. Like, the first isn't going to be perfect.
No.
But just getting it out there and getting the wheels rolling, that's really what we need to do.
But I loved your video idea.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, can I describe it?
Yes, you can.
For the viewers.
Yeah.
So for this merch drop, Liam was thinking we were out playing disc golf. It would be him or somebody throwing a shot that's like 400 feet away or whatever, and then once it's in the middle of its flight, the camera cuts and it goes to the basket and a disc going right in. It would be Liam then celebrating like, heck yeah, like running to the basket. And then the next shot is that you see the disc just on the grass, like it's not in the basket. And then you're like, whoa, like what the heck? Like I thought it went in. And then I forgot what happened in the middle here, but I think
there's really nothing. The introduction of your character is next.
Oh, okay, and then
you
pick it up.
Yeah, so I'm looking around bewildered. What just happened? How is this in the basket? And then the camera turns to a tree, and out from behind the tree is Tomas in a suit, and he says something along the lines of what Chris Hansen might say to a predator, like a predator, and me just confused. We're on a disc golf course. This was supposed to be a video about me making a hole-in-one. I don't know what's going on. What the heck are you talking about? And then the camera turns again to Chris, who's in a police officer's outfit, who is then tackling me to the ground and putting my arms behind my back. At that point, Chris grabs me up. Thomas walks up to me, grabs the shirt that I'm wearing, a button-down shirt, rips it open, and then it's the merch. Thomas looks down in disgust. Chris turns me around, looks at the shirt. You're free to go, son.
I love that.
That idea came from just a little bit of the smokes.
A creativity session.
A little creativity session. After like a hard day of working and working out, just getting off of all technology and just letting the mind wander right before bed. Mm-hmm. And I've had a few ideas come up.
This doesn't relate to the merch drop, but I've been thinking about using GPB as a platform to kind of like what you're doing with the merch drop, as well as like just let your creativity like use it as a medium, mm-hmm. so to say. I remember one night I was going to bed and I just thought of this like short story idea, and then I couldn't really go to bed because I was just stuck in that like mindset. I was like, all right, like how would it go? Like maybe like use that setting, like these shots, whatever.
Yeah. Where
would it go? And this short story concept is basically, I love sci-fi stories, so that's where my mind space was at, and it's let's say a space prisoner story. Mm. So I can't decide if it's gonna be two or like 1, 2, or 3 people that are prisoners, but they get sent in a pod to some desolate planet. So that's their punishment. Like they're stuck in this pod and they get sent to this planet with like food and supplies, and then that's it. Like they get nothing else. But the thing with this planet is that it's like one of those windy planets where it's constantly windy and it's got these tiny rocks. So I don't know what you call it. Like, let's say rock hurricane is always happening. So you can't step out of the pod or you're going to get pummeled by these tiny rocks and get killed. But the story is about these 3 guys, like, figuring out what they can do inside this pod. And then towards the end, there's a brief window where the storm just stops. And then they don't know what to do. So that's like the short story. I don't know, like, completely, like, if they go out, they don't go out, if it's 1 person, 3 people. But that's like I was thinking to use the podcast either to do like one of those AI voice narrations and then just use like pictures or whatever.
Yeah.
Or like storyboard it out and try to make it yourself. Because if you know enough skills, you can honestly recreate like what I just imagined just using computers.
Yeah. That's sweet. I like that idea. That is cool. Letting the creativity fly a little bit.
But in terms of merch, perfection doesn't matter. Just do something about it. We're thinking about the Dolly image as a shirt idea.
Yep, our logo.
Maybe collaborate with one of our friends that are artists. Make an art piece t-shirt. But I think with winter coming up soon, I'd love a GPB hoodie.
Yes, I agree. I was talking to Colt last night. I saw him. Vixie. Let's go check him out. He's an artist. He does Patreon.
Yeah.
And on a monthly basis, he makes $500 to $600 on Patreon. Pretty much paying for like half of his rent.
That's badass.
A badass, dude. That's like the dream as like a creator, you know, is just to be able to start bringing a little bit in. Super cool. Super cool. But 6:30, we're running low on time.
Yeah, so let's thank you for watching the show, listening to the show, however you're consuming the content. We're bringing in hopefully a more consistent bringing it in on a more consistent basis, Sundays at 8 a.m., whatever we decide the time will be, but just like these little tidbits, like random news that we find interesting, a nature section, GPB Talk, just whatever we decide.
Just whatever we decide. And I know you guys will be out there and ready to listen, so we appreciate everybody who tunes in, especially all the way to the end. You guys are the real ones.
The reals.
The reals. Bye.